Yeah, that deserves a little round of applause. Absolutely. Jeff, you're famous. There's a video made of you. Love it. Well, this is Jeff Mack, everyone. Hello and welcome to the Amphitheater Hot Shop. How are you all doing? You're doing great? Wonderful. You all excited for the late time show? Yeah, why not? Absolutely. This is going to be a fun one. We're really excited about it. Let me introduce the team that we have up here. So that little video that was playing, that was for Jeff Mack. Jeff Mack is the one with the iron in his hand, and he's gathering the glass right now. We can all give him a little round of applause. Let him feel welcome up here. And keep that applause going for his two assistants. He has Enon and Stephanie up here as well. Yeah, my name is Lauren. I'll be narrating the show as we go along. I'll jump in if they need any assistance, but for the most part, I'm assisting you all. This is a live stream demonstration as well, so it's really nice if there's any questions out there in the audience. I'm more than happy to relay them and answer them as we go along. But how many of you all haven't seen a show with us yet? Any show? Wow, a lot of you. Fabulous. Good. You came to the right one. This is going to be a really fun show. We're going to be sculpting some glass. We're going to be doing primarily just a lot of solid sculpture. I don't know if Jeff is going to change his mind and do a hollow base or not. We'll see when that time comes. But for now, we're just working with solid glass. And he gathered that glass from our central furnace that Enon is standing right beside. And that furnace holds around 1,000 pounds of clear glass at 2,100 degrees Fahrenheit. Really nice and hot. Now, whenever we gather the glass from the furnace, you can see on the end of Jeff's iron, it's glowing that brilliant, bright yellowish orange. It's just so hot. It's emitting its own radiant light. People always think that we work with orange glass, but you'll see throughout this demonstration that as it starts to cool down, that bright glow begins to dissipate, and everything starts to turn a little bit more clear. We have a few clear pieces up here on our stage as well. These are all pieces that we've made throughout the week. None of them were made today because all glass needs to go through a slow cooling cycle, and I can get into that annealing process more so towards the end of the show when that time comes. But for now, we can just stay focused on what Jeff is doing. Now, whenever we need to reheat the glass, we have this secondary furnace right here that Jeff is in, and that's called a glory hole or a reheating chamber. Either name works. It's a big empty barrel of heat, and if you look up on the screens, you can see the inside. So you can see how the glass is moving around. Jeff is turning in both directions, and that's really important because if Jeff only turned the iron in one direction, the glass would start to twist on itself. So it's important to turn in both directions. That way you keep the glass nice and straight and even. Now, you all probably are wondering, what is Jeff sculpting tonight? He said he wanted to sculpt an athlete. Keep it real vague like that so you all can see it being built. All right, from one end to the next. And I believe, is this the top of the athlete? Is that what we're doing? Top of the athlete. He specifically asked me to just say, call it an athlete. Don't tell them what it is quite yet. But you'll see when it's all finished, it's all constructed, what athlete it is, what sport theme we're going for today. But yes, so anywho, so now we're sculpting the top half, the torso of the body. So Jeff used a pair of shears and he cut through the glass, and now he has two outstretched arms. And whenever you're sculpting solid glass, you really have to work with the heat, and for the most part, his hands are going to be busy working at the tool bench, grabbing different tools at the bench, poking and prodding. He's pretty much never going to sit down and just sit stagnant whatsoever. He's going to be constantly moving throughout this demonstration. Now, our tools, including our iron that we work with right now that Jeff has the glass gathered on, most of our tools are made out of a stainless steel or a tool steel, but for the most part, a stainless steel. That way they don't really rust because we do work around some water. We don't want our tools to rust on us too much, but stainless steel is also a poor conductor of heat. So we don't need to worry about that heat transferring up through the iron, burning our hands, or transferring up through the shears, up to the handles of the shears. We don't have to worry about any of that too much because of the quality metal that we're working with, which is really nice. But if we were working with like copper or something like that, one of those metals, that would be really hot really fast up here. So you know how some skillets and frying pans have the copper lining on the bottom? It's to evenly distribute the heat throughout the bottom of your pan while you cook. If there's anybody that really likes to cook out there, I love looking for those pans as well, because they really throw the heat around evenly, distribute the heat evenly around the bottom of the skillet. But Jeff here, he's going to be working with some diamond shears. He can use those to grab the glass, cut away any excess material that he wants. But now he's just pretty much going to be sculpting the arms in the direction he wants this athlete to be going, pretty much the pose that he's going for. So we're excited. We have been practicing the shape all day. It's been primarily Stephanie and I and Jeff. We have a back shop behind this shop, and it's a secret. No one can see it. It's nice. So you can see, well, with us, we were able to kind of practice in secret all day and really hone in on what sort of maneuvers we need to really accomplish the shape and really get it to the correct form and the correct posture and what have you. So yeah, we've made, how many? We made 3 of these today, 3 of them. So we've been working all day. And on top of making Bologna vials as well, that's what we do in the back shop as well. Do you guys know what Bologna vials are? Yeah, did anyone see the glass breaking demo today? Some of you all saw that. And the Bologna vial, for those of you who don't know, it's a little, it's a hollow bubble of glass, and it's thicker on one end, and there's an opening on the very top. And it's really a fun demonstration to show you the stress in glass and why it breaks the way it does. So if you bought your ticket today to walk throughout the museum, I recommend keeping your ticket and staying around tomorrow, because the ticket is good for 2 days. You can come back in tomorrow as well and take a peek at more of our collection. We have over 50,000 pieces in our collection, so it's really hard to get it all in one day. I'll tell you that much. So I know it's hard even for me. I've been working here for 5 years, and there's still pieces that we keep on acquiring in our collection, and it's always fun to find a new acquisition in the museum. But anybody have any questions as we're going through this process? Sculpting is kind of a time-intensive thing, and it's a little bit of a slower process because you really want to take your time. And what Jeff is doing right here, he's spot heating certain parts that he wants to manipulate with this glass. This is going to be a smaller sculpture today, but he is focusing the heat just using that little hot torch that we have. Yeah, what's up? What's your question? How does he control the bending of the glass when it's inside this oven over here? It's really difficult to do that. For the most part, he'll be trying to bend it more, do more of the dramatic shaping at the bench. Stephanie, being the main assistant right here, she's going to be taking reheats for him, meaning she's going to bring it back up to the furnace, reheat it, and she'll kind of flip back and forth, allowing it to kind of sag one way, flipping it the other, sag back to where it was, and do that kind of 180 turn. And she's not really going to be doing most of the shaping herself. She's trying to give it back to Jeff with just the right amount of heat so he can do most of the shaping at the bench. So it's all about not overheating the glass and getting it just right. And how do you know it's just right? How do you know you just heated it up to the perfect amount that the gaffer will be happy? Practice. A lot of practice. We have all overheated glass inside that reheating chamber, and it has melted off of our iron before. That's a big whoopsies. You just have to clean that up real fast, so no one will see that. But yes, that won't really happen here because Stephanie, she's been working with glass for around 10 years. Jeff, as you saw in that video, he's been working with glass for over 20 years. Enon, he is our summer intern, and he's still in school. He's going to get his bachelor's of fine arts. So he has been working with glass for around 3 years now. So it's a fun internship that I recommend people look into. Yes, what's up? What is the what? Raw materials of the glass. Yeah, the raw material. Does anybody know the main ingredient to glass? Sulfur. No, keep going. Sand, silica. Sand in silica. Yeah. Silica is a refined form of sand. That's a great guess, though. Yeah. Silica is a refined form of sand. That's the main ingredient. And then there's soda ash and limestone. And those are the three main ingredients that make up our glass. When you look at the raw batch formula of glass, it looks like baking soda. It just looks like powder. Now, we don't work with the raw form of the glass here. We have a company out in Washington State called Spectrum, and they melt that raw batch formula down for us in their large furnace, and their furnace starts to spew out the glass, kind of like on a cookie cutter, if you will, method, and it just cuts out little nuggets of glass, and we call that cullet. So it's first generation melted glass. And so we use cullet because it cuts down on the amount of dust around us. So that way, if we were to shovel in all this silica dust, that's really bad for our lungs. You could get silicosis of the lungs if you don't have the proper respiratory equipment for you. So instead, we use the first generation melted glass, and that's, once again, just called cullet. But it looks like ice cubes. We have charged the furnace after some late shows, and people stick around to see what the glass blowers are doing, and it's not really too technical on how we refill the furnace with the glass that we take out of there. We just take those little ice cubes, those little cullets, little bits of broken glass, and we fill it in a shovel, and then we open that door and throw all of that glass in the face of the furnace. And we do that several times. And the cullet, it comes in these really conveniently sized 50-pound bags, so you can just lug that around and shovel that into the furnace. So yeah, like I said, that's a 1,000-pound tank, and we usually charge every other night around 150 to 200 pounds. It just depends on how much we have been taking out those couple days that we were working. And we do take out a lot of glass. We have a lot of shows throughout the summer. Our schedule is jam-packed. And during the winter months, we kind of slow down on our schedule, which is a little bit nice. We can kind of have longer shows if we want. And that's what's so nice about this late show, is that we can have a nice long show. We can take our time with this piece, which is exactly what we need to sculpt this athlete that we have here. But yeah, those are the raw ingredients of our glass. And actually, speaking of baking soda, Jeff, do you want me to get the baking soda that you left in the back? Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure. So Jeff actually went out to the grocery store. Here, I'll get off stage in just a second. I'll be right back. So he went to the grocery store, and aside from getting a meatball sub for dinner, he also got baking soda. So baking soda, yeah. You can sprinkle this on the surface of the glass, and it will stick onto the surface of the hot glass, and you can heat it to where it kind of fuses onto it, and it reacts in a really funny way with clear glass. If you sprinkle baking soda on clear glass, it kind of like iridizes the glass in a funny way. It will really be nice for this sculpted piece, because when we sprinkle baking soda on it with all these little creases that Jeff is applying in the glass, this baking soda will get trapped in those creases, and it's a really nice way to apply definition to the glass. It's like shading for an artist if they're drawing on a sheet of paper. So we like using baking soda for that. But baking soda on top of that, if you were to sprinkle this out on the marver, which is that metal table in the middle of the stage, and you were to roll some molten glass right on top of it and then gather more glass on top of that, the baking soda heats up and it creates all of these air bubbles in the glass. If you want to make like a really foamy bits, if you're making like a big wave out of glass, if you're down by the ocean and you want a glass wave made for you, a glassmaker might possibly use baking soda to create that sort of foamy style bit of like the wave breaking on top of the water. So just one example of what you can do with baking soda with glass. Two examples really with how you can sprinkle it onto the surface as well. But he might do that. He might work with the baking soda maybe at the end, sprinkle it on a little bit later. But for now, he's going to continue to sculpt that body. Yes, what's going on? So if you have a really well-made figurine made out of glass, and you have it all designed, and you want to mass produce it, does it take this much time and this much energy in just one individual sculpting each individual piece, or is there another way of doing it? Probably it would be a little bit smarter to just get a mold made of it, so you can just make the sculpture that you want, and you can make that sculpture out of whatever material you want. You could use clay, you could sculpt it out of glass first, and then make a mold around that. It will have a different finish on it, though, if you use a mold, and it depends on what that mold is made out of on top of all of that. Oh, no. You can absolutely mass produce glass. Yeah, is that like in general? Or are you saying for the sculpture specifically? Yeah. Okay, so if this sculpture becomes a mass seller, if someone is watching online right now, they say, oh my gosh, I want to buy that. Funny thing is, we can't sell it. So gotcha there. The museum is a nonprofit, so all the pieces that we make during these demonstrations, we do not sell them down in the market. Hypothetically, if we did sell them, there, just to entertain the idea, yeah, if hypothetically we did sell it and it was a big seller, people wanted more of these, it could come down to a team of glassmakers making all of these by hand, but once again, it would be just so much more efficient, and you would probably just simply make more money if you just made a mold out of it, and you could just drip some hot glass in the mold, and then let it go and cool down in the annealer, break the mold apart, and then boom, you have your trophy figurine in the middle. So it would just be a little bit more efficient that way if you were to do it. But once again, it's a different finish, so it's just a little bit of a different method. But for glass just in general, like most of the glass in the world nowadays is mass produced, and it's all most of it is machine made, not all of it. Most of it is machine made. How many of you all got the opportunity to walk through our innovation area today? The innovation area, which is like where you saw the giant stack of Corel ware and the giant green beer bottle stack. Anybody? Yeah, some people saw it. Okay, good. Yeah, if you didn't get a chance to see it today, if you just go up these stairs to the right and then a left, you can't miss it. That's our innovation area in glass. And that giant stack of green beer bottles tells you a really great story about the Owens bottle machine. And that came around in 1903, and that really led the way for mass-produced glass in the world, and it made glass a lot more affordable, and also it was just easier to come by as well. But yeah, the Owens bottle machine, 1903. And that's really how most glass is made nowadays. There's really wonderful YouTube videos that are out there in the world. Honestly, I use YouTube often for just a reference on how certain things could be made, mass-produced, like wine glasses. I was very curious. There are people who do make their own wine glasses, and they do it production style, and you can see that video online, but you can also see assembly style production made via machine, and it's really interesting to see the contrast of how quickly a machine can do it as opposed to a well-known gaffer. It's really interesting to see the difference in the speed and everything. Now, for those of you who are curious on what Jeff is doing just right here, he was kind of drawing in a number in the back of our athlete right now. And I believe he sculpted a little 7 in the back. So this athlete's number is now number 7. We were talking about it earlier today. We should probably put a number on somewhere on the athlete's jersey somewhere. And he was like, what number should I do? I was like, 7. I just picked it out. 7's one of my favorite numbers, so this is my influence on the piece. That's it. Everything else is all Jeff. Jeff is what we call the gaffer. Gaffer is an old English term that means grandfather. And he is not a grandfather, but in a factory setting, it means the person with the most amount of experience and the one that is in control of the production or the piece that day. Yes, all of that. So just in a factory setting, that's what the gaffer means. And we still utilize that term here. Now he's very quickly sculpting some tiny little hands onto our athlete right there. And I love the close-up shot that we have as well. Our AV team is on point, by the way. They do a great job following the action, and they're getting right beside all the hot stuff, so with all this very expensive equipment. So got to give kudos to them as well. Yeah, absolutely. They do a great job. That's for you guys right there. Yeah. Just be careful with those lenses. All right. Now, speaking of lenses, when Stephanie goes to reheat this glass to what gives you this really nice view inside this reheating chamber, we don't use just simple window glass. That would melt down too quickly. Instead, we use a different lens, and that lens is made out of a high-purity fused silica glass. And that fused silica glass is the same kind of glass that they use for optical fiber. They also use it for windshields on shuttle missions into outer space. We have some examples of windshields from certain shuttle missions that have gone out into outer space. We have them in our innovation center, so if you want to see that as well, that's also here at our museum. Oh, all right, what does that look like? That looks like a little clear ball that we have here. So there's a few different sports that have that ball, right? Sort of, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. Exactly. So he just quickly sculpted a little ball in our athlete's hand. Any guesses on what kind of sport this is now? I'm sorry, everyone's so quiet. I heard baseball. Should I tell them or let them just like keep on? I'm not going to tell you. Sorry, I just made you guess it. I'm not going to tell you. It's just how I get you involved. It's okay. Yeah. Oh, it could be the shot put? Yeah, that too. Yeah. We'll see. You'll see. I already know what it's going to be. I made 3 of these guys today, so I'm already well aware. But, all right. Are there any other questions about it? Oh, there's one right over here. Awesome. What's going on, buddy? How are the diamonds incorporated into the diamond shears? That's a great question. There are actually no diamonds in the diamond shears. We call them diamond shears because, I'll get out a set so you all can take a nice look at it. But we call them diamond shears because of the way they cut, not what material they cut with. So we call them diamond shears because of the cut line. You see how it creates, it's kind of like an aperture for a camera, yeah. So we can close down and it creates a small point when we cut, as opposed to straight shears, which will cut a line in the glass. And these are really nice for diamond or for glass making as well, because you see the little claw in the very front of this tool. That claw is meant to grab on to irons, so we can guide our assistant's iron. If we're trying to do this crazy intricate bit on our piece of glass, we can guide our assistant's iron, and we don't have to grab on with the part that we cut the glass with. If you grab the iron right in the middle with your diamond shears, you can damage your diamond shears. They don't want to cut as well anymore because it's metal on metal contact, and it can be a little bit too aggressive for these tools. So that's why we call them diamond shears. But we do use diamonds to cut glass. That's a really fun fact as well. You can use diamonds or stone, but I've used diamonds before, like diamond wheels, to cut and engrave glass, and for people who have seen cut crystal glass before, we have some examples of crystal glass in our 35 Centuries of Glass. If you walk through that collection, you'll find some crystal glassware that was made, even blanks that were made from this area, and it's really worthwhile to just pop in there and see it anyways. But a lot of those pieces, they were made with people who were not even wearing any respiratory equipment, and they're just sitting in front of these huge wheels that were made out of stone and or diamonds, and you just take diamonds and you pulverize them, and you just kind of sprinkle them on like a resin material sometimes, and you can have diamond wheels like that, and those are really nice, and that resin allows those diamonds to kind of shift around a little bit as you press the piece into that diamond wheel. But there's a lot of different techniques to manipulate glass, and that's called cold working, the one that I'm talking about. So this would be considered furnace work and or hot working, right? So you're just hot glass because we're working with the furnace and over 2,000 degrees. So there's a lot of different techniques in shaping glass. Did anyone make their own glass today over at the studio? Yeah, awesome. Awesome, I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, the museum offers this make your own glass, which means that yes, today you would have to walk outside in the rain, but it's beautiful. We need the rain, so I'm not going to complain about the rain whatsoever. We definitely need it here. But you just have to walk across the parking lot, and we have the studio, which is a world-renowned teaching facility as well. And for those of you who did these projects, you can do more than just blow glass there. You can also flame work glass, so you can sit at a bench and have some solid rods of either borosilicate or soft glass in front of you and melt them and make slugs. You can make beads, pendants. It's a really fun opportunity to shape glass that way. And then there's also fusing glass. So if you think, working around 2,000 degrees and 4,000 degrees might be a little too hot for you, understandably, it's a little toasty, a little warm. They also offer fusing classes and sandblasting classes. And sandblasting is another way that you can etch through the glass and carve away through the surface of it and leave a texture. So yeah, for whoever did those projects, I hope you had a good time. It's a lot of fun. It kind of gives you a little taste of what you can do in glass, and it gives you a better understanding of how some of the pieces in our collection were even made. Because as you walk around, you can see the little descriptions of each piece and how it was made and what materials all of them were used to create certain textures in the glass and certain finishes. It's really nice when you've done these projects and you know how much time it takes to make these certain things happen. All right, so he's not sculpting the neck or the head. He's going to detach the body, the torso, off of this punty iron just like that. It breaks off. Very nice job. Let's give him a little round of applause for that. Very nice, clean transfer. So what Stephanie is doing right now, she's taking a couple gathers from our furnace, and she is going to help Jeff out, and they're going to attach the bottom. So they're going to attach the legs onto the bottom of this piece. Now she got a really nice, beautiful, fresh gather of glass, and she can shape it really quickly over here at the other bench. We have two benches up here which are really nice to use. Because that way your assistant can be working on another large gather of glass on one side, and you're not going to be in the gaffer's way at the main bench. So it's really nice to have two different benches up here. So we actually have 4 different reheating chambers up here, the one that Stephanie is in and the one that Jeff is working in. Those are the only 2 that we have on. But yes, Amanda's standing right beside the one, our jumbo. That's our sumo reheating chamber. And that's, I think the diameter is like 32 inches wide, and I think it's around 4 feet deep. So it's like bigger than my dorm room in college. It's huge. It's so impressive. And that's a big piece of glass, or that's a big piece of furniture. Oh my goodness, big piece of equipment. And we can use that for really large pieces that we make throughout the year. And then we have a small baby one that's over on the far side. But this is our normal setup for a hot shop. The bench that we have working right here that Jeff is working on, as well as the size reheating chamber that we're working with as well. It's a pretty average size when it comes to equipment in a hot shop. Now here we go. We're going to attach this onto the bottom of our guy. So hot glass sticks onto anything else that's hot. This fresh molten bit of glass will stick right onto the bottom torso of our athlete. And I've been making fun of Jeff all day saying, oh, it's a mermaid. Nice. He's just going to stretch out the legs, and you'll see. To me, it looks like a mermaid before he cuts in the legs, but, that's okay. Anyways, I see your hand right there. Yeah, let me come on up to you. What's going on? Yeah, how did they add the color to the glass? We have a lot of different pieces on display in the front of our stage, and how did we add the color? There's a few different ways you can add color to glass. One really popular method that we like to use up here is called frit, F-R-I-T. Frit is where we take a fresh molten gather of glass and we roll through the frit. Frit looks like little sugar crystals, basically, of color that you can roll through. And I can actually even pass this out so you all can get a good view of it. So it almost looks kind of like aquarium stones that you would put in the bottom of an aquarium. Frit comes in a bunch of different shapes and sizes. Now I'm going to pass this out, and I don't want anyone to unscrew the lid and flip it upside down, because that is going to make a mess. And yeah, so I'm just going to pass this out. I trust you all to keep the lid on. There you go. You can take a closer look. That is, what color is that? That's a brilliant gold. Yeah, brilliant gold. That's actually one of our more expensive colors. Give that back. No, I'm just joking. It's okay. To make color in glass, you add different metal oxides to a clear batch of glass to make that beautiful gold that you have right there. They would have to add some sort of gold chloride and maybe a few other ingredients, but I'm not really too positive on what they exactly add to make each individual color. I know that for greens, you use iron or essentially rust. For blues, you would use cobalt. Those are just some examples of metals that you'd use to shape or to colorize the glass. So frit is one method. Another way is simply just having a melting tank of nothing but that one color. That's always nice, where you just kind of dip the head of the iron in below the surface of the glass, and it just happens to be a brilliant gold or a bright blue. And that's another way, but that would kind of be very restrictive for us. We would be stuck only working with that one color for the rest of the week until we work that furnace down. And then we can melt another color. And then another way is by using color bar. And color bar are like these little rods. Stephanie, do you mind if you hand me this little, or this blue color bar right there? Thank you so much. Easy there, yeah, it's okay. And this is color bar. This is a beautiful light turquoise that we have here. And they get shipped to us in maybe like 2 foot to 3 foot lengths. And it's just solid condensed color. And we can take a little chop off of this, and it kind of looks like a blue candy cane to me, honestly. But yeah, you take a chop of this, like a little section of it, and you can preheat this rod up to around 1,000 degrees to where the glass is pre-warmed, basically. And then you can make a post, which is just a little gather of glass on the end of a solid iron, and then you can stick onto the bottom of that color rod. You would heat that color rod up and get it all squishy, technical term, you get it squishy, and then you drip it on top of a bubble, and you create a jacket of color around that bubble. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. Good, awesome. That's another way. And when you use color bar, you create an even veil of color. So you can see like this white piece and the blue piece, the copper piece that's right down here, the copper blue, or even the red bowl up here on the very top of our color card up here, to get that nice even veil of red on our dolphin bowl. That gaffer used a red color bar. So yeah, these are just a few different ways that you can create color in glass. And it's really nice, really, really nice, because as glassmakers, when we want to make our own objects, we do not come here and rent time here at the museum to make them. We actually rent time right over at the studio, where you all probably had some of your own make your own projects today. And we will go over there and rent time and make our own pieces. And we have to buy our own color, and colors can be very expensive for glassmakers. For example, the gold ruby and the brilliant gold that's going around right now, those can be anywhere between $70 and $80 a kilo. A kilo, which is like a little bag, just a tiny, it's like a sandwich bag. And that's all you get for $70 or $80, just that one color. And if you want to make this beautiful rainbow piece, you got to multiply that a couple times, and then you can finally make that beautiful rainbow piece. So that's something to think about as well. But for the museum, it's so nice. When we work here, we don't have to pay for any of the color. The museum pays for all the color for us. Now, it's a nonprofit, so pretty much it's like the museum goers that are paying for our colors. So I want to say thank you. You all pay for our colors. You guys are paying for your ticket to come into the museum and walk around. But that allows us to go out and buy all the different colors in glass. And we have like the big kid Crayola coloring box where we have the over 200 different colors to work with in glass. So there's a lot of different colors and to play with here. So it's really very fun. But Jeff, he didn't want to use color for this piece to sculpt the glass. And it's kind of nice to not need to not have to use the color. First of all, when you're making this piece, it's really nice to show off the quality of the clear glass that we have. Clear glass is really nice to work with because you can see more of the optics. The more he starts to poke and prod at this glass, you can see the light catch the piece differently every time he turns the iron. So I love clear glass. I've come to really appreciate clear glass as a glass artist. And when you're first learning how to blow glass, all you want to do is work with colors. All you want to do is just make this really bright, obnoxiously colored cup and say that you made it. Like that's all you want to do when you first do it. And you're so obsessed with colors. But then after a while, you really just start to tone it down a bit. You find your own color palette that you like working with. And even sometimes it's just nice to work with clear glass. It's really fun in that regard. Yeah. I sometimes have people ask me the question, what's the difference between the glass that we work with and crystal glass, lead crystal glass? It's really just a few ingredients. The main ingredient in lead crystal glass is lead. It's in the name. Yeah, lead crystal. So lead is really what helps kind of optically purify the glass. And it's really nice to use lead in that regard. And lead, it does make the glass heavier, so the glassmaker can feel it as they work with a lead crystal glass. So it makes the glass a little bit heavier, but it stays hotter longer, too. It's a different kind of animal when it comes down to it. The glass that we work with, the beautiful soda lime glass, it's a really common form of studio glass. Most glass is made out of the three main ingredients that we work with in our main glass. But for example, the window glass that I'm standing in front of probably has all three main ingredients, the silica, the soda ash, the limestone. And you can tell when glass has a little bit of limestone in it. You all probably installed and or hopefully not broken windows, but you've seen a broken window before where you see that light blue tint, the greenish blue tint in the glass, that color. That's from the limestone. And it's kind of called an impurity in the glass, but it's not, an impurity has such a negative connotation to it. It just means that's why the color, there's color in the clear glass. That's really the only reason. It's just that limestone. But the glass that we work with, it's really nice. We wouldn't be able to, if I were to break this window right here, I wouldn't be able to take this window glass and recycle it into our melting tank because it's a completely different chemical composition of glass. There's different ingredients added to it to make the window glass solidify faster when it's being made. Whereas our glass, if it solidified as quickly as window glass, we would not be able to sculpt anything with that glass. It just hard. We wouldn't be able to do anything. So it's nice that we have this nice workable glass that we can work with here. And there's only a few different glass companies now in the world that we can rely on that help produce the glass that we work with. One I mentioned before was in Washington State. I believe it's in Seattle, Spectrum. And then there's as well Spruce Pine, which is in North Carolina. And we happen to use both batches here within the museum compound, actually. In the museum, we use the Spectrum, and then over at the studio, they use Spruce Pine. And Spruce Pine and Spectrum, they're practically identical, but Spruce Pine is just a little bit softer, in my opinion. It melts, it's a little bit gooier, basically. And you can feel that when you work with the material. All right, so Jeff, he's pulling out some kneecaps on our athlete that we have here. Oh, so carefully working with the glass. Now you see how Jeff is pushing down on the athlete as well. That's creating torque between that punty connection and the collarbone of our athlete. So if he pushes too hard, he can actually push this piece right off of the iron and break the piece. So all of this hard work could be right on the floor. And we're careful to not allow that to happen. So he knows the pressure he needs to apply to the glass to get the certain shape that he wants, but he's also very cautious about how hard he does push down and how often he takes these little reheats. These are called flash heats, where he reheats the entire body of the piece inside that furnace and gets it nice and warm again. But wherever he preheated the glass with that torch, that's going to be the first place to really move around because it was preheated ahead of time than anywhere else on this form. And when we reintroduce it to the heat, that really nice warm, right, for this example's sake, the leg of it, the thigh, was the hottest part going inside that oven, so it's going to be the hottest thing coming out of that oven. So he's able to kick the leg around a little bit. Yeah, but we usually typically we blow glass up here. We are known as glass blowers. And it's funny, whenever we do it inflate the glass, it's very minimal. It's not a lot of effort, first of all, to inflate glass as long as it's hot enough. Did anyone make their own ornament today, or their own sculpture, or work over in the studio and do that? No. Did anyone pull any flowers today? That's a fun one. Oh man, you all need to have some projects in mind for the next time you come up and visit too. It's really cool because you can see how stretchy the glass is if you pull a flower at the make your own glass, but also you can see how much you can stretch it by how hard you blow when you make an ornament or a sculpture, whatever they offer over there. Sometimes they make seasonal items as well, like little hearts for February and this, that, and the other. Thank you so much, ma'am. I appreciate that. Yeah, it came back. Good, thank you. I'm happy that I'm happy that Frit came back. Nice. But yeah. Okay, so I think. So Jeff, is she going to make the base for the piece? Okay, awesome. So we are going to make the base for this piece to stand on. Right now, this athlete's leg is kind of just jutted out, and it wouldn't be able to stand that well on that tiny little point. So instead, we need to create a mound for it to stand on. Oh, I kind of gave it away. Pitcher's mound, come on. Yeah, there we go. So now we know. But it's okay. I'll keep on calling it an athlete just to appease Jeff. I know he's like, just keep on calling it an athlete. It's okay. No big deal. But now Stephanie is going to work on gathering up more glass for the mound for our athlete to stand on. Now every time we take a gather of glass from the furnace, we want to build up the mass. If we want to build up the mass, we'll cool that first gather down. And we do that primarily to better maintain control of this material. Sometimes we want to work really, really big, but if we try to gather up 5 pounds of fresh glass on the end of the iron, it's impossible. It's too hard. The glass is too soft, and it will simply drip off the iron. So we have to build up our mass on the end of our iron just in layers. That's the easiest way for us to maintain control. So that's what Stephanie's doing. She's allowing that glass to cool down just enough to where it starts to harden around the outside. And think of it as, you know, for those people who still make candles out there, if you think about how a candle is made, you take the wick and you can dip the wick in that molten pot of wax and then take the wick out and allow that wax to dry on the outside, and then you can dip it back in the wax and you add more and more and more layers. Yeah. All right, they're talking back and forth about what the next step is. Stephanie was just told by Jeff. Jeff was asking her to block the glass, and that means she's going to use this tool right here, and it's called a block, so that's why he was telling her to block it. And a block is just a wooden tool. It looks kind of like a big wooden spoon, and she can use that to shape, center, and cool the glass, and it gives you this really nice, even gather in the glass. Now she keeps on reaching behind her right there, and she was using the bucket behind her. That bucket is filled just with some water just to keep that tool and preserve that tool as long as we can. That hot glass does begin to burn away those tools, yes. And we probably need to replace those block tools depending on which size is used more frequently. Typically the smaller ones are used much more often than the larger blocks that we have. Blocks can come in all different sizes, all the way from my fist to my head, and even bigger than my head. And blocks can be really nice and big. But the smaller ones get used a little bit more, and they get burned out a little bit faster, so we can replace them maybe every 3 to 5 months. The larger ones, we need to replace them a little bit less often. But we use a fruit wood for those tools, a fruit wood, because fruit wood has a dense grain pattern and a very low resin content. So it doesn't leave a lot of residue on the glass if they are to burn through to the glass. There's no residue seeping out onto our glass as we work with it, which is really nice. So we don't leave any sort of schmutz on the glass whatsoever as we work with it. That's why we don't use pine, for example. Pine would light up like a Christmas tree, but yeah, that'd be bad news to work with pine. Stephanie, are you going to gather over that one more time? Yes, she's going to make, ooh, this is going to be a big mound. Nice. All right, the last one we made, we probably had just a hair more glass than that, but she's going to take a nice big gather of glass on top of this. And then we'll attach this we'll attach our athlete onto that mound, and then we still need to sculpt the head. We didn't pre-sculpt the head at all, so we'll be doing that. That won't take too much time to sculpt the head. When it's so small, it's really a little bit too difficult to add so much detail, like a smile or a mustache or something like that, because the head is going to be like the size of your thumb or your thumbnail, really, really small. Maybe from your knuckle up to the tip of your thumb. That's about it. Now Enon is over here, and he's bringing over fresh bits of glass to Jeff, and he's going to create the little feet for our sculpture. Do you need a block? Nope, she's got it. Okay, good. I ask that as she already has the gather fresh out of the furnace. I'd be running over there. Sorry, girl. I'm going to come over there anyways and open up a door for her in case she needs to reheat it. And Jeff is going to work on sculpting that little foot, and Enon's going to get the second foot for our athlete so they can attach this onto the base of the piece. There we go. Do you want me to go ahead and open up these doors for you just in case? Got you. Okay. Do you want, I might give you 2. Yeah, there you go. Now we do have multiple doors on the face of these furnaces, which is really nice to use. You can see occasionally Jeff will have Enon open up some of those doors. You do not want to shut the glass blower inside the furnace. That's always a no-no. So Jeff could be taking a reheat and someone could shut that door, and if that assistant walks away from their duty, from their position, they're leaving Jeff in there to kind of fend for himself. And I mentioned earlier in the narration, if you keep glass inside that reheating chamber for too long, it will melt right off of the iron. It is a little bit hotter than our melting tank. It's typically around 2200 degrees, sometimes around 2300 degrees. And it's just so it can reheat our glass a lot faster. We turn that oven down at the end of the night, though. So at the end of this show, we turn down both of the reheating chambers, and we turn down our annealing oven. That way the glass can slowly cool. But we do not turn off the furnace. You never turn off the furnace unless you are trying to do some maintenance for the furnace. But yeah, if that melting tank were to shut off, it is thundering outside and it's lightning, and if there was a power outage, don't worry, we're backed up here. We have a whole separate unit to actually keep power going to the furnace to keep everything hot. We do not want that brand new furnace. This is a brand new hot shop too, for those of you who did not know. This furnace was built in the last 4 years now, but we had our grand opening last year in March. And that was a big party for us. We had a great time. A bunch of visiting artists came through, and everybody had a good time making big pieces of glass to christen the equipment with, and we had brand new tools. Everything was so nice. Everything is still just like it's new because it is such a young hot shop. But yes, if we let that furnace cool down and it got too cold, then while there's a giant tank of glass in there, if there was 500 pounds of glass in the tank and it were to cool down to below 900 degrees and then get to room temperature, when glass cools, it shrinks just a little bit. It doesn't go from like 4 feet to 2 feet. It's nothing dramatic. It's just something like microscopic. It happens. So it's compressing on itself. So when the glass compresses too much on itself, it can literally squeeze itself to death, and it will just boop, pop, and it will crack and break. So that means that it will break our furnace. It will break the crucible that is holding all of the glass. And a crucible is like a big ceramic flower pot, basically. It's a high-fired ceramic that can withstand that 2,000 degrees. And if we ever let that furnace cool down, it could send a huge crack down the side of our furnace, and we would have to work on taking all of that, the crucible out, probably reline the interior of the furnace. Now, we sometimes need to, do you want a shield, Stephanie? Okay, nod your head yes or shake your head no. There you go. I was like, I can't hear you. There you go. She does not need a shield while she cuts in that neckline. Okay, good. So yeah, so we never turn that furnace off, once again, unless you need to do some maintenance on it. And hopefully we will not need to anytime soon in the next couple years. We hope to keep that running and as is for a while now. Are there any other questions about anything that I can answer? Yes, what's going on? Yeah.
I remember when I was like in middle school, high school, I created bottle glass, propane torch, bottle glass.
Is bottled glass any different than window glass or soda lime glass, the glass that we work with? It's all different, really. It's all different from one another. You know, they can all say they're under the same family tree because they're all, the main ingredient to all glass is silica. So there's that. But you can add different ingredients and it makes it a completely different kind of glass. So bottled glass is completely different from window glass, and bottled glass is completely different from hourglass as well. There are glass artists that are out there. Like I had one in college, Nanda Soderberg, and he's amazing. He's a great artist in glass, and he works primarily with recycled glass. And you can take bottles of glass and you can slump them in the furnace, and all of us have probably seen those little cheese plates that people make out of the slumped wine glasses or wine bottles, excuse me. You could do that, but what he does is he preheats those bottles, and he'll open them up and make them into vases, or he'll take the beer bottles and he'll melt some other beer bottles in his own kiln that he's pre-made, and take that molten beer bottle glass and sculpt really intricate handles out of them on the beer bottle, which is just funny because it's just like a little ode to traditional Venetian glassware, but it's on a beer bottle, so it's just a little funny in that regard. But he's a great artist. That's a good example of that. But yeah, it's a completely different chemical composition. I relate different glasses in the world to different baked goods. I'm huge into baking. I love to bake, and there are so many different desserts out there. It's awesome. So if you just change one ingredient, you either got oatmeal cookies or you got chocolate chip cookies, but no matter what, they both need flour, right? So unless you're gluten-free and you're using something else, so then I don't know. I'm not gluten-free, so I use flour. Anywho. Oh, Stephanie got the doors? You good to go? Okay, cool. So this base that Stephanie has, she has been turning the iron. She's very careful to not turn the iron very quickly, otherwise this base that she has will get much wider, much faster. The centripetal force will force that glass to spin out and get really, really wide. So ladies, if you have your favorite dress or your favorite skirt that's nice and flowy and you spin around in it and it raises up just a little bit, that's centripetal force. You spinning around in a circle causes that skirt to raise up. And we're careful not to do that with this glass. Now that's a mound right there. She'll pass this off to Jeff. They will trade, and that gives Jeff a moment to sculpt that. And he's using, yep, a wooden board. That's why it's smoking so much. There you go. Wood gives you a longer working time at the bench. It allows you to shape the glass a little bit longer than using graphite. Graphite paddles would really kind of force that glass to cool down. Oh, bummer, we don't want that anymore. It's okay, we can recycle that. It's cool, don't worry about it. It's all clear, it's all clear. We can recycle that back into the furnace, no big deal. Stephanie is placing the body of our athlete into a box over here. And this box, this is called a garage. And yes, we can park glass in the garage and come back to it later. That's why we call it the garage, because we'll take the glass, we'll park it inside this oven. She's propping it up on a stone in there to keep the athlete raised and off the kiln shelf that's on the bottom, on the floor, so he doesn't get all dusty. And she'll just hang out with it for a moment. She'll turn the iron to make sure that the athlete doesn't fall off center. She's placing it into this 1,000 degree kiln, and 1,000 degrees is perfect for... Oh, do you want me to put a shelf in there? I got you. I thought I saw one in there, my bad. It's just a little one. Oh, just keep it turning? Oh, never mind. There you go. You're what? One of those? Yeah, no problem. Boop. Put my safety glasses on. That's important. Now it looks like Jeff wants to make the base, the one that Stephanie made was, is that good?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Was a little too big though, a little too big for Jeff, so he wants to change that up a little bit. There we go. I'll light a torch for Stephanie over on the assistant bench, that way she can flash heat certain parts of our athlete, like the mitts, the mitt that our athlete is holding on to. Hey, thank you. Hey now. That was Eric Goldschmidt, everyone. Thank you. It's cool. I just got this trapped on something and lunged forward. So there we go. Anyways. Sorry about that noise. It wasn't pleasant. Sorry. Oh, man. Yeah. Oh, I even forgot what I was talking about. Oh, the oven mitt, the mitts. Okay, there we go. So Stephanie, she was, I have that little torch heated up and lit for her at that bench. Whenever she goes to reheat this athlete, the body, the core of the athlete is staying nice and hot because it's the thickest part on this piece. But the arms that are stretched out on our athlete, they're away from the core heat source. So the hands and even the 1 foot at the very tip of the athlete, that is cooling down faster than the core and like the chest and the pants of our athlete. So we have that little hot torch so she can spot heat the hands, because when we take it out of the furnace, the hands are going to be the first thing to cool down. So we don't want that to happen. Now glass is an insulative material. It does not conduct the heat. So just because the body, the chest and the pants of our athlete are above 1,000 degrees doesn't mean that it's going to conduct that same heat through the arms to the hands. It is just going to insulate itself wherever it is the hottest, which is currently the chest and the pants, and not the legs, not the arms, not the hands. Now it looks like we're going to make a hollow mound. That's what Jeff was disputing right there. He was decided against the solid mound that Stephanie had created, and he wanted to create a hollow one. So it would make this vessel much lighter. Still a heavy piece of glass right there. We still have plenty of glass. Careful where you turn around. It's right there. Now Jeff is in the pipe cooler right there. It's a little foot pump system that we have, and it acts like a sprinkler that comes up and sprinkles a little bit of cool water on our irons. allowing it to stay nice and cool, allowing our irons to stay cool. The more we dip the head of the iron into the furnace, we probably dip about maybe 2 feet of that iron into 2,000 degrees, and only a couple inches are gathered on the iron. So all that heat, that residual heat from the furnace, is hitting 2 feet of that iron, and sometimes that can build up. And that's why we use that pipe cooler to cool that down. What's up? Oh, what's that cloth tool? What's that cloth tool? Thank you, good timing, Jeff. There you go. So he is using this tool right here. Does anyone know what material that is made from? Newspaper. Some people have been to our shows today. Love it. Yeah, that's our local newspaper. The best, yeah. Yeah, shop local, right? So yeah, that is our Corning Leader right there. It's our local newspaper. It's a great material to use against glass. And you know, I had someone come up to me the other day and say, you know, you'd figure, because we're living in this new age where there's all this new stuff coming out all the time, you would figure that someone would have come up with a better material than newspaper that's just so flammable and it will deteriorate over time. Really, it's been working for so long, why change it, right? It works so well. So there have been some updates in the newspaper department. Now, there's this thing called a GOT pad, G-O-T. I think we have one here somewhere. Yep, there we go. A GOT pad. Oh, this one looks dirty. That's okay. So a GOT pad. It comes in a few different styles. This one is kind of a woven felt-like material with graphite impregnated into the fibers of it, and you can soak this in water, and it has a kind of like thick cloth on the inside. I think it's like a cotton cloth on the inside. You can even put newspaper inside of this. It's kind of like a big sock, so you can just shove a bunch of newspaper in there and get this nice and wet, and you can shape the glass with this. I do not like the GOT pad. It's nothing against the GOT pad industry or whoever figured this out. It's good for some applications in glass, yes. But I think for me, it cools the glass down very quickly because of the graphite powder that's impregnated into it. Graphite is one of those materials that really steals the most amount of the heat out of the glass. And it doesn't give you a long working time like the newspaper does. The newspaper just allows you to shape the glass very quickly. You can go back and forth. And the GOT pad kind of freezes the glass for me, but I would see it useful in certain applications in glass. Now, Jeff asked Enon to create a punty, P-U-N-T-Y. And a punty is that iron that Enon is holding on to. And he'll use a lot of water. A lot of water. That's okay. That punty sticks onto the bottom of the piece, so it's fused. But right now, Jeff is trying to cool the jack line down, which is where he's placing all of that water. You can see all those little chisel marks appear in the glass. Man, this close action stuff, it is awesome. You can see the glass and the water practically just evaporating very quickly off of it. There we go, right off of the blowpipe. Perfect. So we broke the glass, now we need to reheat it. You can see how kind of snarled it is on the outside. It's just really kind of rough looking. That's okay. When we heat glass, it just naturally smooths itself out and rounds out. It's perfect. It's so nice. Is this going to be like a rondelle?
Yeah.
Oh boy. And we'll punny the inside. Oh, nice. Do you all know what a rondelle is? Was that your question? No, I'll answer your question. I'll get to that. Yeah. Yeah. What is he using the air tool for? That compressed air gun. That compressed air gun, we can use that to just like spot cool certain pieces on the glass. So like the torch, we can spot heat certain pieces and places. Oh yeah, it's right over there, right beside The red dolphin piece. There you go. He was using it right there, specifically on the jack line, because he wanted it to break off of the blowpipe, right? In order for the glass to break up here, that means we need to get it below 900 degrees. That's its like stress out point. It freaks out a little bit and it snaps and it breaks. It doesn't like it. But if we can do it in a very controlled manner, then that's great. I would put it in a baking pan if I were you. And then at the end of the show, we can do a nice deep clean and sweep up all of the baking soda in the area. You want to sift it on. So we're going to need a sifter then. Let me tell you where a sifter is. You know the back room back over here? All right, so pay close attention on how Jeff will start to open up this beautiful bowl that we have here. It's a bowl right now because it's a bubble with a small opening on the very top. And he is going to flare this out using heat and centripetal force. All right, perfect. Came back and he hasn't even opened it up quite yet. Perfect. Stephanie is doing a great job keeping this athlete nice and warm. She's making sure nothing gets out of place. She's doing quick reheats, constantly standing up and down, back up in our reheating chamber. She's doing an awesome job over here, seriously. Yeah, that's what you rely on whenever you're making glass. You want your assistants to be just as competent and confident as you are, really, because we typically say there's a saying in glassmaking where you're only as good as your assistant. Yeah, because if we had somebody up here with only like a year's worth of experience, this would be probably a completely different show. And it's because they simply don't have the knowledge base or the experience to give you a really nice late show. They'd probably be still struggling with the starter bubble for the first 10 minutes of the show. And we were all there as glassmakers. That's what we did. It's okay. Ooh, now look at that. Very quickly, Jeff shaped. You just gonna do it like that, Jeff? Cool. All right. So Jeff flared open our bowl that we had there, and that's what we call a rondelle. And this is kind of like a crude example of how some of the earliest windows were made right here. They would take these giant bubbles and then they would blow them up and punty them just as Jeff has, and then heat them and flare them open like this. And there's a great example of a rondelle up in our Innovation Center as well. I'm going to keep on pushing that Innovation Center on you all. It's a really mind-blowing area when you walk through it. It's great. There's a lot of information to kind of retain when you walk through there. But the rondelle is one of the earliest forms of windows, and they would flare this out, and there wouldn't be round frames cut out specifically for these rondelles. Instead, that's where cold working came in again. They would take this glass after it has been annealed, which means it's slowly cooled down, and they would cut it. They would cut it into small squares and make it fit specifically into certain frames that were pre-made for these windows. Ooh, this is the baking soda. There we go. So he'll sprinkle that onto the pitcher's mound. And you can see how well our ventilation works here. It's like, whoop. Straight up in the air. Nice. And now we can see how that baking soda kind of reacts to the surface. And when this piece comes out of the oven tomorrow, for us, we can more so feel that texture on the surface. It's just this really nice kind of granular texture on the surface of the glass. But they're going to do that a couple times to get a nice coat, and then they're going to do the same thing to the athlete, I believe, when it's all said and done. I might be speaking out of turn there. I might be wrong. They might just leave the athlete alone. But we'll see. How you doing, Stephanie? Doing good? Yeah? You want a glass of water? You doing okay? Oh, okay. Good. Stay hydrated. It's hot. It's a warm day. It's been crazy hot all day. We had to cancel our outdoor shows because it was so hot. And then on top of the thunderstorms as well, that's a good reason not to work outside. Yeah, walking around outside with 4-foot irons in your hand, you're not like a beacon for something, you know, like lightning or whatever. So yeah, it's nice that we did that. We planned ahead for our glass blowers. All right, so what you need, boss? Nothing. Oh, I see. He's drawing. It's okay, we planned for that to happen. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about that. We don't want it there anyways, so. He was trying to sculpt the little mound that the pitcher stands on. That's okay. The baking soda, it kind of acts as a release. It doesn't allow that hot glass to stick right onto the surface. So that can act as a release and let it go. So that's no big deal.
You guys torch that together just like me, and then you torch when I'm making the head.
No problem. I can do that. Yeah.
Or I can make the head over there, and you guys can do it over here.
We can do that too. That'd be better? Sure, no problem. All right, so we are going to work together. I'm going to help out Stephanie by heating the body and taking flashes on this piece once it is all attached. Yes, no problem. I can do that. How are the pictures coming out? Got any good ones? Feeling good about it?
Yeah.
Nice. I'm always a bad judge of that. I look at the pictures on the camera, and if I don't like it on the camera, I delete it. And you're supposed to like keep all of them and keep them until you see them on the computer, so you actually get a better view of it. I was always bad at that. That's okay. All right, so I'm going to pass the love of the narration off to Stephanie Perry over here. Give her a moment so she can kind of take a breath away from the heat, and I can kind of get in here and trade with her so that way she can kind of cool down. Okay. We're going to stick them together. I'm going to let them stick it together first, and then I'm going to come in. And then I'm going to do that. All right. All right, so I'll wait for that moment to happen. Are there any other questions about anything else that I can answer before I get kind of pulled into this and switch the narration around? What's going on? What is that compression sleeve on Jeff's forearm for? It's not a compression sleeve. It's just a Kevlar sleeve, and Kevlar is a fire-resistant material that we use, and it acts as an extra layer of protection again from the heat. Let's see, that was really burnt out, but that's okay. It's just another layer for that heat to interact with before it interacts with our skin. So that's really nice. Turn the air off. No problem. So I just stomped on this little air vent that was right there. We have AC in our hot shop, but Jeff doesn't want any cool air blowing onto our athlete or our pitcher's mound whatsoever, because then that can cool the connection between this step right here. So this is the moment where we're going to attach it onto that mound. And Stephanie's going to be turning with Jeff as he attaches this onto the body, making sure that she doesn't twist his ankle in any one weird way. And that can get a little tricky as well. Now, using that hot torch, he can preheat that leg, make sure it doesn't cool down too quickly, and then he'll preheat the rest of the body. He's allowing that foot to solidify into place, and then with a little tap, the body should pop right off. A little bit of water on that mound. And it's okay, it's okay. We'll fix it, we'll fix it. And he's just not happy, is he? I will. Is the other leg down there? No, yeah, question mark? Yeah, here, you want to torch that? No. Can we get that out of that and then put it right up there? Nice. It's okay. Yeah. So we're just discussing on possibly why that pitcher probably came off his mound, and we're thinking now just probably because that baking soda on the surface acted a little bit of a release, but that's okay. Look at this. We can stick it right back on that punty. He's going to dance around just a little bit, but then that punty will solidify. You know, on top of all of this, we also did pre-make one ahead of time. And we have another one in the oven over here. So if it comes down to it, we can always take that out as well. No big deal. It's just kind of, yeah. Hey, let's give Jeff a big round of applause regardless, because that took a lot of time. That took a lot of energy. You know, this is showing you this is not easy. This is not easy at all. There's a lot of factors that play into making a piece of glass, and this is an intricate one at that. This is a very tricky piece of glass. So this athlete that we have inside of our oven, it's like a cooking show. It's like they put a turkey in the oven and we already have another one pre-made and it's already cooked. It's done. That one is over in the garage. So we did have two. So now we have that one that's inside there as well. Enon is going to be working on flashing this piece and keeping the mound nice and even and up to temperature. And then Jeff is going to punty the head of our pitcher. Now, when we're all said and done with this piece of glass, we would like to save it. And in order to save it, we'll put it away in that slow cooling oven, the annealing oven. And there's this oven that's down here. It's up to 920 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's a safe temperature for our glass to be kept at. And we've been making glass all day, and this oven is almost filled to the brim of different glass pieces, vessels and sculptures alike. And when we're all said and done with this piece, we would like to put it away inside that annealing oven. And all glass in the world goes through that slow cooling cycle, all of it. The windows in your home, the glasses that you're looking through, the glasses that you drink out of, all of them go through that slow cooling cycle in order for them to survive. And because as you all know, if the glass cools too quickly, it'll crack and break. So yes, we have that annealing oven to allow that slow cooling process to happen. I'm going to take a little heat for you, and I'll bring it back so you can do the same thing. Sound good? Awesome. Sometimes the pitcher's mound can go a little squirrely, a little hard to see if it fell off center or not. But if you give it a little nice heat, you can preheat the punty and the pitcher mound alike, and then you can use a wooden board right on the brim. And you don't want to push too hard, otherwise you flatten it out. So you want to push real light and make sure that you keep it nice and straight. Yeah, sure. Go right on ahead. So look at that. It's a cooking show. I love it. It's great. So good. So we already had one pre-made. There's the head that's already attached. Everything is all there. They preheated it, gave it a little flash with that torch. Jeff is making sure that the pitcher's mound will stay nice and straight. Now Jeff is superheating the very tip of the glass, and it's kind of like he's kind of burning away that baking soda that he sprinkled on the glass. And once he's burned that away just enough, the sculpture should be able to stand just fine. Now we'll focus that heat on the foot of our athlete. They'll swap together again. And this is round two. I'm happy we didn't lose everything. Where the pitcher mound went down, everything else went down. Let's see. We'll attach this so we still have something to work with right here. So we have that pitcher's mound. They'll flip, they'll work together, they attach it. Foot and heel, tip of the toe to the heel, to that mound. And they're going to turn together and make sure that that foot is really nice and fused on there. And same thing. We can use that hot torch to just heat the body. The punty and that pitcher's mound is still nice and warm. Still has plenty of heat in it. Now this is where it gets tricky one more time. A little bit of water, and it breaks off. Yeah. Second time's the charm. Beautiful job. So we're not done yet. Still, we're going to flash this piece down a couple times. That means we're going to even out the temperature of the body and the pitcher's mound. Everything is going to be the even temperature before we break it off. So what we'll be doing here is just a kind of like a couple small reheats, give it everything nice and warm. Jeff will get everything on center, make sure everything is straight. But while I still have everyone's attention, before we put this piece away, does anyone have any questions about anything? Any last minute questions about pieces in our collection or anything like that? Is that your hand over there? What's going on? Hello. What kind of athlete is it? It is a pitcher in the game of baseball. Yeah, a pitcher in the game of baseball. Lucky number 7. I just like the number 7, so I got to influence this piece just in the number that's printed on the back of the shirt. That's it. And the rest of it, Jeff is our guest artist for this evening's event. So he came up with the design earlier, and people constantly ask us that too. Do you know what you're going to make before you even start going at it? Yes, you absolutely need a plan. You need a plan. It's like planning Thanksgiving dinner. You can't walk into it blind, otherwise everyone will go hungry. So you need to have a plan. for everything, whether it's something very simple as a mug or a small paperweight. But even as something as intricate as this, you need to have a game plan, especially with your team. What's going on? Yeah. Did Jeff do drawings on paper, like a small little 2D schematic of how he wanted this piece to look? Yes, Stephanie, the gloves are in the back. Saw her run back there. Great. Yeah, absolutely. And it's really nice when you can get the team together and you can just see it all drawn down. And it's nice sometimes when it's to scale, but if it's not, then it's totally fine because you at least see the parts and pieces and the gesture for something like this, for this sculpture. But even to see something functional, to see what kind of style handle someone wants for a vase, to see that detail in the drawing as well, that really helps. Really, really helps. Now, Stephanie's going to catch this piece. Take a peek. Take a peek. I don't know what side is free or not. That side? Is that good? Okay. Just be careful about that. You want to hand that to me? No? Okay. I'm going to move that out of the way so Enon does not knock it over. I've definitely been very careful to not knock anything over here as well. It gets a little tricky. Sometimes there's a lot of glass up here. There's a lot of glass up here. There's a lot of glass up here tonight even. And I don't know. You all have been such a nice crowd. Maybe we'll do something pretty special for you all. But first, we want to break this piece off of the punty iron so everyone can hold their breath. I can see how anxious everyone is. It's okay. Breathe deep. And there we go. We break it right off of the punty. Beautiful job. Let's give our whole team a big round of applause. That was Jeff Mack. That was Stephanie Perry. That was Enon. Yes, let's give them all a big round of applause. Nice. We can all breathe now. You can shake it off. There you go. Very nice job. The team did a phenomenal job. Great job, Jeff. All right.